Is LIGHTBOB TV, episode 10. Today is Monday Source. And what happened is that I had so much fun doing the last series, but then when I start to listening and watching it again in a new unit of time, I realized that for people that don't know or just arriving in the lighting profession or are wanted to do work with LED and don't understand how it worked, there there was really like nothing that can explain it to you in simple layman term, like where do you start, how do you move from one area to the others, which one is which, and also what not to do, because um, I make a lot of mistake, and I still, every day I try new things, and then I started to develop, some guard, and also some ways of checking what's going on, and working with different manufacturers and working with different fabricators and fabricating stuff myself. So what I realize is that how can I help you to understand a little bit better, and to start building from where you're at and go up from there. So today's episode is it's really simple. Is what to do and what not to do. Let's say you're starting in the LED world. What would I do if I started today? And this was for me a good way to have a recap on everything I learned in my, I wouldn't say 4 decades, but in LED, easily 3 decades in the LED world. I started with the very, very beginning. And even before we had white LED, I was doing electronics, and I was using LED for signal. I was making lighting controllers, and I was using LED to different functions. So it always had been part of my life, and I realized that sometimes when I talk to people, I don't take that in consideration. So in this new series, what I want to touch is I want to touch lighting at different level: architecture, entertainment, custom lighting, and all those different area as a brand new guy who started, and what would I do today with the knowledge I have, so that I would go directly, and I would go faster in my career. And let's say you are an interior designer, so you want to get into lighting. Like you like, oh well, I like lighting so much, or I hate it because I can never communicate to somebody what I want, or everything I see some beautiful lighting and then a streak of ugly lighting. And why is that? And how do I, as a person, as a professional, as a passionate, as a hobbyist, whatever, how do I decipher all of this data and make my own story, and find out for myself and become better at it? And that's when I started. That was my idea. And this is the new series that I'm going to do about that. We're going to start today with source. Tomorrow we're going to start with lighting fixtures, manufacturers. We're going to go through the design, and again the environment, and we'll see where that goes. Um, I know I'll be traveling Thursday and Friday, so there won't be any episode on design and the environment, but we'll carry those away. And those episodes that are missing on circadian lighting, I'm gonna catch up and bring them up. And funny thing is that now that I'm done with that series, I got all kinds of feedback. I get calls, I get emails, and people say, "Well, Bob, like POE is gone and da 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 da." You're talking like it's old news. It was hot 10 years ago, and honestly, I I don't care. Like, I don't care. This is not I'm not emotional about this. If you think it's doesn't have a purpose, and you want to use radio signal or infrared or whatever, Wi-Fi, or it's fine. I mean, there's no law that's gonna stop you from doing what you're doing. And I'm not bashing on anything. It's just that when I started to look at this and I started to dig deeper, I realized that the easiest thing for what I wanted to do, which is circadian lighting, was to use PoE. Part of my research, and that's why today we're having this episode, is that while I was researching, it was really hard to find players that were professional. I mean, I found some amazing player in the PoE business. I heard that some of the big one are dropping. I mean, and it's always like this. There's always a rotation in technology. There's a new thing, new new protocol. There's a new flavor of the month. Plus, also people that are going to invest a lot of money in something are not gonna. It's going to take a while before they admit that they fail. So, what is it, right? It doesn't matter. So today we're gonna talk about source LED, and the thing is that if you are starting with LED, this is going to be perfect for you, because the first thing I'm going to tell you is that don't start buying the cheapest strip you can find. Start by understanding what you really are building, right? So buying stuff or specifying stuff or going on a Amazon or going on Alibaba, I mean, I'm the worst. I bought so much stuff from Alibaba, and I had box and box and box of junk that I just threw away because after a while it's useless. So before we start anything like this, I want you to understand what you want to do. What are you building? Are you building a light fixtures? Are you building a system? Are you building, and we'll go through that. But if we go back to the first episode, you have to understand that we have two type of source. We have directional and we have general diffuse, and that's it. So once we know that, and we know that the LED can do both, then we can start to determine, what we are really building. And LED is not just a light source, right? Unlike incandescent, which you screw in and it works, an LED by itself is just a piece of electronic, a part of electronic. So it's not a light source. And there's a whole system that needs to be around it. So basically, you have the chip, which is the source, right? But by itself, you cannot take it and plug it in the wall because it's gonna burn. So you have a driver. Both of these components together add some heat, right? So you got to do some heat management there. Then you got to control this. And since this is an electronic circuit that you build, unlike before, where we just put a resistance and you can have less or more lights depending on the resistance you apply to it, since it's a electronic circuit, you're going to need some control that process data. So 0 and 1. So you're going to have to do something in that matter. And what I recommend to you before anything is take any LED fixtures and take it apart and look at it and try to locate those parts. Now, as we spoke about, and we're going to talk tomorrow about lighting fixtures, there's different component that is part of a lighting fixtures, but I want you to focus on the LED. And you're going to see that there's a LED is mounted into something, and then it's connected to a little box, and then this box is connected to a plug. That box is called the driver. It's got all kinds of stuff inside, and it's connected to the LED to give a certain power voltage, so that the LED doesn't explode, burn, or overheat. And today's episode, that's what we're gonna start thinking about. That if we think and understand this basic principle, then we can extrapolate and we can bring this into different scenarios, and we can start building a story around like what's going on. So what's available right now, right? So right now we have a lot of, I would say 90% of the products that are lighting are LED products. So you can have a simple strip, you can have small module, you can have fixtures, and then you have a series of suppliers, right? And suppliers goes from Home Depot to Arrow Electronic to you can go to Cree, you can go to Philips, you can go to Osram and General Electric, and you have a whole array of people. So as a beginner, where do you start? Well, the first thing you have to understand is you don't need to reinvent everything. You don't need to reinvent. Just start looking and try to understand what each players are doing. What does a manufacturer does? What does a distributor does? What an agency does? What an integrator does? What an electrician does? By understanding who is interfering with or interacting with the LED, you will start to understand that it's an ecosystem and that you have a post in there. And without you deciding what you want to do with the LED, all these people are useless. If you don't decide, and if you don't design, and if you don't put the gray matter at work and decide that what you want to do with the LED, all of the rest is unnecessary. You don't need anybody. So it all starts with you, and having the basic knowledge will give you confidence. And I'm the first to say, when I'm somewhere I don't know, never seen this, but I'm gonna find out. I take a picture, I go and I search, find the manual, look if there's serial number, look if there's model number, and I can tell you that after a couple hours, I know exactly what I have in front of me, or the pictures, and then I can make a decision on how I'm going to use it, and what it is about, or if I can do anything with it. If it's a proprietary system, if they have their own stuff, and my clients doesn't want to deal with them, then we have to move on to another solution. So I will be the one that's going to call the shot, not my client. I'm going to say, listen, if you don't want to deal with these people, that means that these 6,000 fixtures are going to have to be modified. And then you can hear the gear going in their head. They'll say, well, you know what? Forget about it. Or I'm so fed up. Let's do it. Right? So by knowing what's in front of you, by knowing what you want to do, now you can start to make some decision. And when you start to understand each players in the ecosystem, then what you do is you try to improve it. You try to improve. Let's say you don't like the physical design, you don't like the fixtures. Well, now that you know what you want from the LED, the driver, and now you can look into different manufacturers that provide you with the same spec but a different design. Same thing. You like the design, but you don't like the way that the fixture is operating. Well, you call the manufacturer and you say, "Hey, I'm trying to achieve this, but the fixture cannot do it. Do you have plans of upgrading them? Do you mind if I open it and I change it, or can you send me some drawings or?" And there will be some interaction because everybody wins when we're all pushing in one direction. So the possibility for you, once you understand what you know, it is limitless. So where do you start, right? So we have this LED, and 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 the first thing you do is you ask for data. You look at the manufacturers, you look at the spec sheet, you go online, you look at the chip they put in, you pull out the data on the chip, and then you make yourself a little profile for that LED, right? For that fixtures. And then what's next? Then you can start comparing specification, meaning that now you have a recipe that you can ask other people if they have the ingredient to do that recipe. Are you using that chipset? You can talk to the manufacturer. They'll say, well, we have several approved vendors that are using this chipset. You can talk to this one, this one, this one, this one. Good. So now you go. Second thing you're gonna do is you're gonna get a sample. You're gonna buy one. You're gonna borrow one. You're gonna call the manufacturer, send me a sample, or the client's gonna give one to you. But you need to see for yourself. You need to look and understand what you have in front of you, because you can have a spec sheet, a piece of paper, and the LED look that big. On the piece of paper, it takes 3/4 of the page, and you have a big pictures like this, and in your head, you're like, wow, that's a big. And then you receive the fixtures, and the chip is smaller than a zit. It's very small. It's the size of a pen, eraser. So if you don't see, if you don't understand, because sometimes you'll have the measurement, they'll be in millimeter, they'll be in inches, they'll be in whatever metrics that the company use, and sometimes you don't have a rule handy, or especially in millimeter is very complicated because you can have 10 millimeter, 100 millimeter, and 1 millimeter, and then you have all these lines, and it says 10, and then it says 100, and it is. But once you have it in front of you, it's this is real. Over the year, I learned not to trust the marketing material. So I get the spec sheet, I get the number, I get everything I need to make my own information, to fill out and understand what I need to understand. And then I look for myself, right? The other thing I'm gonna tell you to do is that, which is very important, is that take the plug and put it in the wall and look at it. Test it. Let it sit for a day. Put your hands on it. If it's burning hot, don't touch it. I mean, you'll feel it. Same thing like we check the pan. If the pan is hot before we put a steak, you just put your hand near it, and if you don't feel anything, you go closer and closer, and then you go and you start touching around. And if you see an area that's really hot and the rest is cold, that means that the dissipation, the heat dissipation, is not very good. Because normally it should use the whole casting or the whole fixture to dissipate. Also, I will ask you to look at the brightness. And this is again something that I've been telling you. The eyes is really bad to evaluate the intensity. But if you put it against another fixtures, you can see. This is a 20 watt, this is a 20 watt. This one looks super bright. This one looks super dull. Well, I don't think it's a 20 watt, right? Vice versa. Wow, this is a 20 watt, but it's going very fine. Second, after that, after looking at the brightness, you're going to look also for color. I'm not going to tell you number, but because I don't, but you're going to look for color consistency. Again, take that fixture, put it against another fixture, and look if they're the same. What color? They say that it's a 3000 degree Kelvin. And then you look at the other one, it's a 3000, but this one is warmer, this one is cooler. There's a discrepancy. You might not know what it is, but your eyes will see a difference, and then you understand. You start to understand where I'm going with this. If you have the possibility to have a dimmer, you start dimming, and you look if it flickers, if it, how far can you dim it before it goes off? Sometimes it goes dim, 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 off, or sometimes it goes dim, 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 nothing. So that scale is very important, because depending on the context you're doing, if you're trying to do a crossfade of color or change, if you have a low dimming curve and then it goes to off, you're losing a lot of, you're creating visual distraction that's not necessary. And of course, once we start to take it apart, we look at the driver, we look if they're what's compatible to it. If you have a driver, if you have an electronic circuit and your fixtures and you cannot find the name, if you cannot find the model, you take your Google phone, you try to look, you take Amazon, you take Alibaba, and you cannot find the driver, there's a good chance that this fixture has something that was made once and that's going to be thrown away. And when you're going to try to replace it, you won't be able to find parts that are replaceable. So again, those are the basic thing that you want to know. And as you see, I don't want to get into anything else but information, because right now it's important that you develop your own ways of looking at things, your own ways of comparing, your own ways of understanding. And like I always said, you are welcome to send me email. You're welcome to send me pictures. I'm a phone call away. If you need anything, just give me a call. So again, so now we have the LED quality that is revealed over time, right? We don't know in the first 30 seconds. It's impossible. You turn 2 light bulbs on. Oh my God, it's fantastic. I love the color. Yeah, I like it. Fine. Let it run for a couple hours. Let it run for a couple days. Take a sample, plug it in the warehouse, and let it run for a year. And you'll see. This is where the real story comes. And then you'll start to understand that you're not only buying on price, right? When we have LED. And all those not to do are not things that I took in a book. Those are real error that I made in life, and I'm sure some of you did too. But it's important to remind us that it is part also of our experience. The greatest of all in basketball not only scored, he missed a lot of hoop. So the same thing for us. The more you look, the more you try, the more you test, the better you'll get at it. And that's the only thing. So first thing you don't look at is the price, because it's $14.99, because it's $3, because it's on Amazon Prime, because somebody gave it to you, or you buy it in a garage sale. Doesn't mean this is not a good character. Okay. The worst thing you can do is assume that all the LED are the same. And how many times I go to clients and they come in, or I go to help some of subcontractors, people that do furniture, people that do bars, people that do onyx background. And then they say, oh, we have everything. We have all the LED. And then I look at the LED and they're like, oh my God, the cheapest one you can get. Then I look at the driver. First of all, they put it at the right place. They put it inside the onyx, which is the worst place to put them. So sometimes they're like, well, it's all done, ready to do. Well, we're not changing it. Well, it's on you, right? It's on you. I warn you, this is not going to work well. This is not going to age well, because those LED that you perhaps bought at a good price, they're not the same. They're not all the same. Just mentioned something about the driver. Same thing. You use outdoor driver indoor or indoor outdoor. There is consequences. There is some consequences. They don't like that. They don't like the overheat. They don't like the pollution. They don't like the salt. They don't like, I mean, there's a million reasons why it's important to have the right driver for the right situation. And the driver is the little box that drives the LED. Okay. And one of the things that I would suggest you not to do is not to install it without testing it before. Meaning, go in your garage, plug everything that you have, and check, make sure that it works. There's nothing worse. Well, I mean, if you have let's say you have a 40-story building and you have 200 fixtures, your garage might not be the biggest one, but you will ask for a section that you're going to be installing to be sent to you, and you're going to try it. And try it inside, try it outside, trying during the day, trying during the night. There's a lot of trying, but you will get the certainty that what you're about to do works. Bring the electrician, bring the programmer, bring everybody that has anything to do with your install, because you have two eyes, and having 4 or 5 people and have their eyes looking at different angle will also make your process go faster and faster and faster. So having all these people at the same time, it's not like, oh, you didn't tell us about this. You didn't tell us about that. Oh, I didn't think it was that big. Oh, I didn't know where to mount. Oh, I didn't know I needed to put some how do you call it, silicone in the holes so that the bugs don't get into the structure, right? Seal the cable, or have the proper terminal, not terminal, but the proper connector that are liquid type to go into the casing or in the fixture, blah, blah, blah. And another thing about that, while you're doing this, let it run. Again, let it run. Don't skip on heat management. Maybe inside your warehouse, it's all nice and air conditioned, and the fixtures, there's vent because the garage doors are open and trucks are going in and out, and there's always a circulation. Now that your fixture is on the inside of a casing, there's no circulation, and your driver or your LED are boiling hot. So again, test your heat. The other thing I will tell you not to do is do not trust one sample. If they send you one sample, bad news. Have a couple, plug them all in, and then you can, again, compare colors, compare beam spread, compare heat, compare all of that. And you know, perhaps on your design you said, well, they should be 3 feet apart. You put them 3 feet apart, you look at, no, you know what, it's not good. We need to put them 2 feet apart. So you got to make a change. And again, because they changed the optic, because the manufacturer used a different chipset, because. But now that you have the sample, you can validate yourself and your process, and also everything else I've been telling you. One of the first mistake I did in my career is that I built a giant wall. I think it was like 60 feet high or 80 feet high, and it had 100 feet long. And we had tons and tons and tons of strips. And the casing was very small because it was on both sides, and it was kind of a, like a panel, translucent panel. And over the year, strips started to burn. And I didn't think about leaving space for troubleshoot. I didn't think, well, everybody told me that those LED were 100,000 hours. And honestly, I didn't buy them. My client bought them, and I installed it for another person. So as an installer, I never thought about troubleshooting them. Never thought that what we do if they burn. And that became a big problem very rapidly, because within 6 months, part of strips started to burn. Power supplies were inside, started to fail. I mean, it was a disaster, a total disaster. So I can tell you very, very frankly that that was the biggest lesson I learned. And I should have known better because I was an electrician, and that never crossed my mind. People told me, Bob, there is 100,000 hours. I said, even if it's 50,000, let's say they lied, it's 50,000. But I never thought that the chain of component, the weakest point on it is going to fail. You may have an LED that's going to last 50,000 hours. The driver are going to last 50,000 hours, but the controller that controlled that section burns out. So all that section now is out. So of course you got to troubleshoot, find it, and then find the real why, right? But if you don't think for that, think of the problem, and you want, yes, I want something as a paper tin that lights up and it's the design. Well, guess what? If you don't think about troubleshooting, first of all, and you'll see, I'll talk about the consequence later. But they're totally disaster. So what's the difference between the cheap and a cheap product and a quality product? Well, that's exactly what I just started to tell you, is that the cheap product in electronics component, there's different categories. The same resistor to build a little keychain that flash on and on that cost 1/10 of a cent will cost $2 to build a part that goes into an airplane or in a rocket, in a spaceship. Why? Because the quality of the products are night and day. This one will fail at its first attempt. It will fail. This one is build, test, and retest, and the component inside are such a high quality that it will have 0.001% of fail possibility. The other one is 10%. So that means that 1 out of 10 resistor will burn. This one will burn. We never know. So the component are very, very important. Then we have the consistency. Because I buy cheap component, the consistency won't be the same. If I do something temporary, maybe I wanna try to use something that is cheap. I don't really care. Good. But if I'm doing something, I have a rental company and I'm doing centerpiece for wedding, Well, the last thing I want is having them start flashing or not turning on and this and that. That is a disaster, especially in a wedding or for a corporate event or. The other thing that cheap product do is they fail in dimming. Again, you're building this beautiful set, and then they say, okay, well, we're gonna do a special on TV or we're gonna shoot, and then all you see is these product flashing because the components are not quality, they're not done to be filmed. So you see the product on and on. We talked about color stability, same thing. And the worst of all is when you buy a cheap component, 90% of the time they don't do any heat treatment. You'll have the LED, they'll put the cheapest tape on it, and then you mount them to a strip, and after a while you get sagging because they heat and they just go out. And then they don't have anything to dissipate that heat, and then they start burning, and they burn by section 3 or 4 or right? So knowing that, now where do we start, right? So the first level of LED is that we turn them on and off. Okay, so that's the first level. The control is very simple, it's switching. So what we're going to learn about it is that we're going to learn that there's a polarity. What's a polarity? There's a plus and a minus. What happens if you reverse them? Doesn't work. I'm going to damage? Perhaps yes, perhaps no, depending on the component, the quality of the component. Second thing we're going to learn about switching is that what's the voltage that LED work? Do they work on 6 volt? Do they work on 12 volt, 24 volt, 48 volt? We're going to start to have this. So we have plus and minus, and now we have a voltage. The other thing that we're going to learn by switching is what we call the load. The load is very simple, is the wattage. How many watt is that? Is that a 7 watt? Is that a 5 watt? Is it a 50 watt? Is it a 500 watt? Which it doesn't exist. I didn't see much of 500 watt, but the wattage, it's the load. It's what it, and it's the same thing. If you put the wire that's too small, your LED won't perform. So wiring is the last thing you're gonna check, is that make sure that the wiring is big enough for the load that you have. If you have 20 strip on one wire, well, you gotta check your load, divide by your voltage, and use the Ohm law. I think, if you look on the internet, you have calculator, and it will tell you how many amp. Or you talk to the manufacturer, you said, listen, what kind of wire do I need for this? And then they're gonna ask you how many or how long are you going? Because you may go 100 feet. Well, you need, and you think you're gonna have a little wire. Well, guess what? You have to think again, right? Because you got some loss. So level 1, switching on and off, polarity, voltage, load, wiring. This is the basic of the basic to talk and play with LED. Now let's go to level 2. Level 2 is that we're going to start dimming these LED. So now we're adding a component to that, and dimming is very cool because now we gotta learn to make sure that everybody talks together, that the LED is compatible with the driver and the dimmer. So now we start to have a little bit more complex integration, and also we got to learn the dimming curve. Exactly what I was telling you. You have an LED that goes nice on to maximum, or you have 0, 0, suddenly 50% to 100. So that's called a dimming curve. So you're gonna learn that when you start dimming. And then the last thing that you're gonna also want to know when you work with dimmer is the flicker behavior. I just told you that when you're filming, the electronic of the camera detect a certain speed of light. And if it's not compatible with the dimming curve and the LED, they're going to be a conflict. They're not going to be in tune. So you're filming, you have this beautiful shot, and then you arrive behind a video wall or some light fixtures that have LED, or you're trying to make a video and then they're flashing, they're going wild. That's called the flicker behavior. So this is going to be also a thing you're going to start to put in your vocabulary. You're going to start to think about that. Let's move to level 3. Level 3 is our basic color change. So color change means that now you know that we dim, and by dimming, the 3 primary color in lighting is red, green, and blue. By dimming those at different intensity, we have 16 million color. Everybody heard about this. Everybody saw a little Philips so how is it done? It is 3 colors that are on dimmers. And that's why when you move your finger around that little circle, what you're doing is you're playing with the 3 intensity. And the same thing for tunable white, except that you have cool white and warm white, and you're switching between the 2. So what you're going to do now on level 3, you're going to start to learn channels control. So my red is at 50%, my blue's at 30%, my green is at 20%. And then you're going to write that down. This is the color my client likes. Okay, so now from then on, every other lights, this is the program, right? Those are the channel, that's the green that they like, or that's the color that they like. Now let's go to level 4. Level 4, now we know that each channel, each LED has 3 channels. What happened when we create a party and we put a bunch of them together and then we have them on a string, and now they're like pixel. So they're all integrated. We have green, red, blue, warm white, cold white. So now, and on top of that, we have 1 pixel, 2 pixel, and we can give them different address. This is number 1, this is number 2. So now you start to understand that 1 has A, B, C, D, E channel. A, B, C, D for number 2. So now we have 10 channel for 2 pixel. Now you imagine if you have a wall, you have 100 pixel, you have a lot of addressable channel. So this is number 4. So now you control each pixel individually, and then you start learning all the data signal behavior. Because not only you control RGB, now you got to control pixel 1, pixel 2, pixel 3. We want to create a group and have those change at the same color at the same time. Or we want 100 of them change at the same color. Now, level 5 is what happened when we take a bunch of those pixels and we stuff them together. Like all together. Now we're talking video matrix. Now we're start to talk about LED as an image surface. LED, all our little dots that have red, green, blue, white, warm white, cool white, warm white. Now we put them all together and we have what we call a video, an image surface. Now by modulating the color and having a system that's a bit more sophisticated, we can start to have different image, what we call mapping. And then depending on the spacing between the LED, we'll have different resolution. And then we're going to start talking about the refresh rate, which is the time that you have between each image. So level 5, we're talking about video matrix, and we use the LED as an image surface. We do mapping, resolution, and refresh rate are our buzzword that we need to do. Now, let's go to level 6. And what can be better than that? Well, level 6, we're going to start talking about MIDI integration. MIDI is a protocol that can do take music and can make light respond to it. So we have light that can respond to music. So now we have this integration. We not only we have image, but now we can have all kinds of sensors that are going to trigger some other thing. And you see this sometimes in some exposition in museum. You have a giant piano and the lights are on the floor, and you touch the light and then there's a note. You touch the other light, another note. So this is where you start to have light responding to music or sound. And we use this a lot in performance lighting, rock and roll, all that stuff. And it's sometimes it can be real time, like you touch something, boom, done. Sometimes it's a recording. The computer do it on a sequence by itself, right? Now you're going to say, Bob, what's the last level? Well, the last level is very, very simple. The last level is you. And the reason why I say it's you is because you want to be the one that's going to push and come up with an idea. And without you, again, all this beautiful technology is just a piece, it's just a museum filled with all kinds of junk. So I have so much more to tell you, and I think we're going to keep that for our next week. But as a basic, I think we understand now that LED are something that if I was to start today, I can easily say that I can learn and I can do stuff and elevate my knowledge in lighting, just knowing a little bit more about the LED. And if you followed me, and I try, like I said, I try to be as the basic as possible. I don't want to create like long chain of misunderstood word that gonna make you say, well, you know what, it's too complicated. It's very, very simple. And that's why I create these seminars, because when I started, nobody could explain it to me simply. And when I tried to, enter into the LED world, I got introduced to all kinds of words that didn't have anything to do with what I wanted to do with the LED. And that was my biggest ruin, because I wanted to do this, I want to do that. Does it work? Can I do it? Where do I get this? How does it work? And who do I talk to? And that was a real disaster. And that's why I don't want you to go to the same pain. Today, it's possible. With this video, you just learn, you follow me through Mondays, you're going to be an expert in sources. And no, you don't need to know all the technical 0.01 and 0.07, because this is engineering stuff. And it's very important for scientists. We are in the application. We are in the creation of effect. We are in the aesthetic world. We are into taking the technology and make it do things that these guys never thought about. And your post and your job and your position in this world is the most important, because there is warehouse full of LED and nobody knows what to do with it. Why? Because they don't understand the basic of it. So I hope you had a good Monday, and I'm looking forward for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to start talking about lighting fixtures and how, again, if I was to start today, where would I start in the lighting fixture world? So have fun. Thank you for being there. And